Welcome back. Today we are continuing with our verb section. As you've noticed, the verb section actually has the most individual lectures. The reason being, the verbs tend to cause the biggest problem to non-native English speakers when they are writing in English. Today we're moving on with conditional sentences. A conditional sentence is one that expresses an if-then relationship. They are made up of both a subordinate clause, which begins with when, if, or unless, and a main clause. The subordinate clause expresses the condition, and the main clause expresses the result. So first, what is a subordinate clause? A subordinate clause provides the main clause with more information, but cannot stand alone as a full sentence. A main clause, on the other hand, contains a subject and a verb, and expresses a complete thought, so it can stand alone as its own complete sentence. So here we have, when the weather calms down, I'm going for a walk. So here we have the subordinate clause expressing the condition, when the weather calms down, and the main clause expressing the result, I'm going for a walk. Conditional sentences are used to show three different types of conditions. The first is the hypothetical condition, or hypothetical conditionals. They are used to express that an event is unlikely to or factually cannot happen. To do this in the past tense, the subordinate clause uses the verb in the past perfect tense, and the main clause verb uses could have, would have, or might have, plus the past participle. So the incorrect example would be, if the students had studied over the weekend, they would be better prepared for their exams. The correct example, of course, is if the students had studied over the weekend, they would have been better prepared for their exams. So here again, the subordinate clause, beginning with if, has the verb in the past perfect tense, had studied, and the main clause, verb, is made up of would have and the past participle of been. To do hypothetical conditions in the present or future tense, the subordinate clause uses the verb in the past tense, so the simple past, and the main clause uses the verb with could, would, or might. Here's an incorrect example. If the students studied over the weekend, they would have been better prepared for their exams. The correct example, if the students studied over the weekend, they would be better prepared for their exams. And here again in the incorrect, we use the past participle in the main clause, which we are not supposed to do when we're expressing the present or the future. The next condition is predictive conditions, which predict consequences from certain conditions. In these, the subordinate clause uses the verb in the present tense, and the main clause uses a modal plus the base form of the verb. And I'm sure you remember how to do the modal auxiliary verbs. So the incorrect, if it snows, the mountains become white. Correct, when it snows, the mountains will become white. So here we have snows as the present tense in the subordinate clause, and the modal will with the base form of become in the main clause. The final condition is a factual condition. Factual conditionals express factual relationships. And to do this, the verb tense in both clauses must match. So it doesn't matter what tense you use, but they have to be the same. So here's an incorrect example where the tenses are not the same. When the team wins, the fans would have been thrilled. Instead, we change the verbs in both clauses to match. So we have, when the team wins, the fans are thrilled. So those are the three main forms of conditional sentences. We have hypothetical conditions, predictive conditions, and factual conditions. This is a good resource for you to look back at occasionally to remember what tense of verb to use in which part of the sentence, so the subordinate or the main clause, in order to show the type of condition that you're trying to express. And these ones admittedly are very tricky, and students have major problems with these sentences. But they're very important sentences because we are often expressing conditions. So please send me some examples. I'll take a look at them for you and see where you're struggling to express conditions correctly. Okay, but for now, thank you very much, and we will see you again next time.